Nevertheless,
We got one right.
nevertheless, we'll probably, yeah, Belgian Tour. I was about to go to the Giro under 23, but the Belgian Tour, well, arguably the home of cycling, the promised land of cycling or whatever. And yeah, what did you guys think of this race?
It's the chaotic race with the golden kilometer, which is just like a defining feature. Which I forgot about that at the beginning of this like race. I was like, oh, it's just some sprint stages and a TT, but it was not just that. It was a Mathieu van der Poel showcase, is what it was basically. It was really quite scary what he was just like shredding the peloton apart. But it's also the race where, of course, when Cav in 2021, when he went to do so well in the Tour, wasn't it the race that he went to prior to there? And he was like, took a couple of stages, got a little bit of momentum going. The sprinters were largely dominated by Jakobsen and Philipsen. Jakobsen took two, Philipsen took one. And then, what was it, Sun? Oh, God, Scott's going to glare at me. Sudden
Southern
Valenschold?
Valenshold.
Valenschold? How do we do, Scott?
Yeah, I think pretty well. No,
Yes! Sign me up to Norwegian residency. But he won the TT, and that was pretty cool. You know, under 23 TT champ last year. And so that was really cool actually to see him not just beating some nobodies either. You know, he was beating some serious names like Van der Poel and Lampart and Steimler and just other people who are just actually good at time trialing. So it was a very interesting week of racing, all in all, but it just makes me scared as to what Van der Poel's going to do in the Tour.
Yeah, Vadenshot for me was a standout. Great TT, and also staying up there in the GC was good. Also, Vácek as well. This time Matthias Vácek, not his brother Karel. He rode a strong race for Trek Segafredo. Excited to see what he can bring for the rest of this year. But I mean, the Van der Poel Express in the lead outs, he was great for Jesper Philipsen. And then when he took that stage so dominantly, I think it just shows something here. Van der Poel is on excellent form. And I believe actually one of the Roodhofts, one of the managers of the team, actually said that he's pushing watts that they have never seen before. That's very intriguing for what's to come in only a couple of weeks' time in France.
or what's to come.
Oh, that was unintentional, but brilliant.
But yeah, okay. We saw Mathieu van der Poel ride the Giro and the Tour last year, and he was, well, quite rightly, quite fatigued after that. But yeah, what is a Mathieu van der Poel in 2023 going to do at the Tour de France?
He's going to win stage one. That's exactly what he's going to do. We all know, we can see it coming. It's an
What are the odds on that?
Probably
is quite good or no?
Probably like you're going to lose money, basically, because you're going to have to, like, the odds are so low, they've gone below one. It's a negative ratio at this point. That's how bad the odds will be. I think that it's an unstoppable train, this Van der Poel stage one victory. And nobody else may as well bother turning up to stage one, to be honest with you, at this rate. He is going to absolutely shred everyone. Unless that second to last climb is raced super aggressively by some climbers, like maybe Quickstep proper try and light it up for Alaphilippe, but their team isn't really designed for an Alaphilippe. It's quite designed towards the Philipsen. He's only really got like Van Zevenant, Bajoli really to set a hard pace on the climb. So, like, is Pogacar going to be keen enough to really want to shred it? Like, well, Ewan's nodding his head, so he probably will be. So if UAE decide to really go for it, maybe Van der Poel gets a little bit of trouble, but good luck to everybody else on stage one, because I think Van der Poel's winning it. What he'll do for the rest of the race, I don't really know. Lead out for Philipsen, whether he'll just be quite content with stage one victory, does something else in some other intermediate stages, I don't really know.
I agree. Van der Poel is a big race rider at a Grand Tour. It opens with a road stage. Winning this would be huge for him. He's done it at the Giro when he won at Visegrad. He did it at the Tour de France in 2021. He missed the mark on stage one, but redeemed himself on stage two. He's such a sort of big race rider. All the monument performances he's had at the Ronde Sanremo this year at Roubaix. He's a guy you can rely on, and he's evidently on lightning hot form. The only people I see beating him on stage one are Jonas and Pogacar, and that's if the finishing climb is harder than we think it is. It's a little kicker towards the end. Yes, we're getting close towards sort of 10% point, But we've seen before that Mathieu can hang on those. If it were a sort of 5-6% climb, a little bit shallower than it is, I would say definitely Van der Poel could be right up there. But to be honest, I am also in accordance with you. I just think Van der Poel on a stage one with all that pressure, there's one man who can really rise to the occasion. And I think Pogacar would be quite content in not winning stage one. I think he could, but for UAE, it's not number one priority. That could really change the whole dynamic of the race if he did. But I think Van der Poel probably wins the opening stage, could win stage two maybe if he wanted to, takes yellow until the stage into La Reims, I believe. Then I think the climbers or a breakaway will take the yellow jersey for a couple of days.
Is it enough though? Like when you think about it, like what of an art green jersey winner taking stages here, there, and everywhere. Is this like fine for him in his career, just winning the opening stage, having the yellow jersey for a few days, and maybe taking a stage or two later on?
Yes. Yeah, I think it is, because you know what? Winning, like wearing the yellow jersey for a couple of days and taking the stage, I would say that's quite a big notable deal in terms of a career where, you know, you go into a Grand Tour and you're the first person to lead it for a couple of days. That's quite monumental, you would say. But for him elsewhere, maybe it's like the Giro in 2022, where he showed he was on great form, then went in the breakaways and some of these mountain stages and became more of a rogue rider. He also really wants to help Jasper Philipsen on his quest for stage wins in the green jersey. He's been a brilliant lead-out man already this year for Jasper Philipsen, and if he wants to repay him for his dues from Paris-Roubaix, it could be a great sort of use to get him a couple Tour de France stages.
I think they seem quite keen to put the Jasper Disaster name that I didn't even know about. That was a thing in the Netflix thing, wasn't it? Jasper Disaster. I was like, that's a bit disrespectful, considering that Philipsen actually is pretty world class. I think if they had the 2020 vision and they could see into this year that we're in right now, they'd be like, oh, actually, he's actually pretty good. I think you're right, though, Scott, in a way. It is sort of like, is he just going to be content with wins the opening stage, maybe wins one later on? But Alpecin and Jumbo are teams of different objectives, I suppose. So, you know, Jumbo are very GC orientated with Wout on the side. I feel like Alpecin don't have the money to throw at a team like that. They have to almost be a bit more selective with what they're doing. And I think with what the riders which they have, I think they're getting like basically the most out of all of them. They're definitely getting like their value for money out of every single domestique they have. And I think that, yeah, Van der Poel, you know, it's going to be hard because what else could he do? Go and fight for green with Philipsen? It's like, I don't know how that's going to work.
There are a couple stages where you think maybe later on in the race they could suit Van der Poel if he's like up there in like a reduced group or whatever. But for a rider type like Mathieu van der Poel, he is so unique. I think because he's that big time rider, I think he'd be contenting going to a Grand Tour, have this big explosion on day one, take the jersey for a couple of days, absolutely fight for it, and then just sort of cruise home. You know, I think for him that would be quite nice and help all his teammates. He's not a sort of Wout van Aert who sort of uses these Grand Tours as a canvas to paint his brilliance. And these other sort of like serial stage winners like your Jasper Philipsen, like your sort of Mark Cavendishes of old, maybe of new, who sort of go there to win sort of 4 or 5 stages. And he's not going to be a Pogacar kind of type. I think he's there to sort of have these spectacular performances and have these sort of memorable acts like he did in the 2021 Tour de France, where he was a superstar in that opening week. Even at the 2022 Giro, he honored that Maglia Rosa valiantly until he gave it to Juanpe Lopez, if I recall. So I think for Van der Poel, that would be how he acts in this race, and then sort of switches on to helping his teammates. There are plenty of people in Alpecin who could take stages outside of Jasper Philipsen and Mathieu van der Poel. They could probably be, dare I say, the most successful stage-winning squad of this year's tour.
Another thing is that it was a bit of a shame, of course, in the Netflix series that's just come out. Of course, Van der Poel wasn't in the greatest form in the tour last year, so we didn't get to see an awful lot of him and his spectacularness. Whatever. So therefore this year with a fully fledging Van der Poel, I can't wait to hopefully have the Netflix series come back and show the world as like, oh, look at this absolute monster of a man who's just an absolute menace.
And the pathos of Mathieu van der Poel is so powerful as well, with the dynasty
and his history
with his father and his grandfather.
But anyways, I promised more questions, and here we go. Belgian Tour, we'll keep on that theme. Who was the last Dutch winner of the GC before Mathieu van der Poel?
Oh,
Bonus point for a year as well.
Lars Boom, 2011. Is that right?
Correct rider. Can you name the correct year?
Oh, it's not 2011. 2010. Oh, for goodness sake. I swear it's around that time.
2014, before he won the Tour de France stage.
2009. But anyway,
Oh,
we have a second question as well. Second question, don't worry. Mathieu van der Poel takes the GC of the Belgian Tour. Hurrah, hurrah, clap, clap, clap. But how many GC victories has he taken in his professional career? And we'll let Ewan go first because Patrick, you had too many guesses.
This you're showing us up right now with this niche Belgian Tour knowledge. Let's get back to no, okay. So, let me think. Let me dig deep into the memory vault.
I thought Nibali was an easy one.
somehow
Not
I
all
got
of us are
Alissi.
true Slovenia historians. Okay.
He's not Slovenian. We didn't think about that.
Van der Poel.
He won.
He's. I'm gonna go on a whim here and say this is his first.
No, because he's won the Tour of Britain.
Yes, he did in 2019. I forgot about that one.
Has he won like an Anico Bink Bank or something like that before?
Yes, he won an ACO in 2020, the COVID one.
Should we say
You,
two then?
you already put your guess. You can't.
I'm sorry, I didn't think hard enough.
We're collaborating.
This isn't phone a friend.
Oh right, sorry. Okay, I'll just say three then. You could have two.
5.
5. Ewan, we're gonna need to do some revision. I'm gonna predict what we're gonna be doing next week.
Big
What else?
Bang Tour, Belgian Tour, Tour of Britain, and the Boucle de Mayenne twice.
For
Oh.
Boucle de Mayenne. Oh, for